I believe sometimes with some solution
Yeah.
can help. And I think that this show will actually do, and that's why I brought them together, because each one had different philosophy on how to not necessarily correct the issue, but how to maneuver through it. Because a lot of times, some things you're just going to go through this pitfall, but how you maneuver through that pitfall and come out of it is what we're trying to do. So,
Yeah.
focus on the family. So we're actually going to break it down to the African American family. And one of the questions that has come up or arises about how did we get to the point where family is not as important as it was 20 years ago in the Black community? And I would like to start in the back and ask that question to you, Michelle. Let me rephrase it. How do you feel about family now? Do you think there has been a change from the past to present as far as how African Americans view family?
Wow.
He always does that.
I forgot when you came.
It's like this long introduction, a loaded question. Well, let me reword it this way, and then it's
This is
like,
how we roll here. This is what I deal with. So,
got no cue cards, no nothing.
no, that's how we do it.
I do believe that family life has changed. I believe that there's a distance now. And this makes me think about Muhyiddin Baha, simply because he would always say when he saw even my kids or whatever, why do you have your phone in your hand? Everybody is always on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I see that people take more of a love for social media than they do their own families. If they reach out to them, they reach out to them through Facebook or any social media platform, and they feel like that's a means of love. Well, I spoke to them. When did you speak? I spoke to them on Facebook.
Right.
And you really, and it should literally just be Facebook. And I've learned that my true friends are not on Facebook. Like, we don't really generally communicate on Facebook. Those are people just who think they know you on Facebook. But so going back to families, I do believe that there's been a distance. There's no more Big Mama. You have working families where there's some time constraints. And just like you guys were discussing your kids and doing their schoolwork, I just think that there's no more union when it comes to that. In South Carolina, the majority of my family is in New Jersey, and this is the longest I've been away from them in like forever. So it is bothersome. So, and I believe that that's the strength of a community, is the gathering of their family, because it starts there first. And what was that other question?
That was one question.
It was a long-winded question. But hopefully I answered it.
You did. You did. So I'll toss it to you, William.
Oh, it's my turn? Yeah. Okay. All right, so basically, it goes back to what a friend of mine said a long time ago, a while back. It's no longer, you don't have family, you have relatives. And that's how we relate. Now, we in another sense, we do have family, and it may not be somebody you're actually related to. Like, I consider you family. I may consider Victoria family, like my little sister here, Victoria. But you
just knocked me in the head. But yeah,
sorry. But yeah, so it goes back to saying a lot of things have changed from the way we've done it when we were younger. And a lot of it falls on us and how. Because I thought about it when you brought the topic up. We've gone away from creating our own rules instead of going with the rules we've been taught, if it makes sense. We've said, okay, well, yeah, these things are archaic and very ancient, very outdated. Well, how about we just do this from now on? We do it this way. Instead of, hey, we're doing it what it says in this book, we'll do it this way, but how about we adjust it to where it fits us? And that's pretty much where I'm at, more than anything.
No.
I like what you said, William. I'm gonna call you the other word. But I think more than anything, a lot of it has happened. And I know me and my Sean, we had talked about this months before as well. But it seems like because of where the generation was before, so like a lot of us, not everyone, but a lot of us, like millennials especially, we come from broken homes. So it's like either, mom wasn't in the home or typically it was dad that wasn't in the home. So I feel like with that also changed the dynamic of the family. I think that also therefore caused a lot of the values to change as well. So I think whereas like back then it was more like, time together, having mom in the house and, dad out working and doing whatever else. Well, now if you only have one parent in the house, and a lot of times, of course it came from like maybe mom was working 2 jobs to even provide and take care of the family. So now that I just feel like there are different values maybe that have been placed in the Black family where it's still, I got to provide, I got to do this. And it's, it's for the kids. It's to make sure that there is, a roof over the head and food on the table. So it's still thinking about family. But as far as the unit in and of itself, like, does that make sense? Like, I feel like that's why the unit in and of itself it's changed a lot. And of course, now with that, now we are, of course, raising teenagers. And as you were talking about, Michelle, we have like the social media age, like all of these different things. So it's like now they're nothing but cell phones and social media and whatever else. And a lot of times I feel like me and someone, I won't name names, talked about this recently. Even when it comes to like the single parent home, sometimes we end up parenting out of guilt. And it's like parenting from a place of, oh, well, knowing you didn't have your father in the house for whatever reason, because a lot of the dynamics have changed. So now it's like we have the cell phones and we're allowing more like social media access and just different things in general. I just feel like there's so many different factors, and I can talk about this forever and I'll try to be quiet. But I just feel like there's so many different factors that are the reason why like so many things have changed. So I do feel like some of the values have definitely changed, but I just think it's also dynamics in the generation before us that have caused that shift, if that makes sense.
And all y'all actually had one common denominator. Well, actually, multiple common denominators, and one of them was communication. One thing that was brought up was the fact that we don't have certain elders in the community anymore.
Right.
And so I want to...
it goes back to like she was saying, like mom was 43, but now when she's 43, she's trying to hang out with daughter,
right,
granddaughter. We all trying to go to the club tonight.
Right.
So, like I said,
look at how many people in their 40s have grandkids now.
Right.
Like,
well, I'm glad y'all brought that up, because within the community, do you feel as though now is more important to relate to your children or to parent your children? Because a lot of times what you're seeing is more people are trying to relate to their children, more people are trying to be their children's friend. More of them are like, hey, you know what? Me and you, they think we're twins. So we're going to go wear the same clothes. We're going to shop at the same. So I'm not trying, realistic.
No, that is true. There are definitely a lot of people who are trying to relate and not parent.
No, but yeah, that's you shouldn't. No, it shouldn't basically try to relate. You need to be parent.
Exactly.
In some extent, you should relate, but no, you should be parenting, because now I can keep my name.
Yes, because you have to be relatable, because it's like a lot of us, we came from that time where it was just like, well, I'm the mom and I'm the dad, like, because I said so, don't ask any questions, like it's whatever I say goes, and that's just that. I agree with that, but I do feel like we also need to relate more. And it's like now, of course, this is the self-help generation. Of course, there's therapy, and like even myself being a coach, and I think sometimes that kind of gets in my way, because I also a lot of times parent my kids from a place of thinking how they're going to be when they leave my house, if that makes sense. And I think because I work with people who have so much trauma from their childhood, so it's almost like I'm trying to parent them from a place of preparing you for the future, but forgetting that I still have to relate to them now as children and give them what they need in this season.
Okay.
I got one for you. So, no, because it's something that you said that he mentioned earlier. So
you're leaning.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The question I want to throw to you is, why do we feel as though we have to change the rules to be more relatable if the rules in the beginning of us being the parent and I am the mother and I am the father, why is that being skewed a little bit or adjusted when there was nothing wrong with it in the beginning? Because if our parents raised us that way, if their parents raised them that way, and we produce a society during a time frame where we went through, and I'm going to back it up and then I'll bring it forward. We had that philosophy from slavery to Jim Crow, and then it fell off. But during slavery and Jim Crow, we built bonds, we built people, we built nations, we built education, we built quality people. Not saying that we didn't have the turmoil, but we built quality people that all of a sudden now we want to add relatable. Do you feel as though that part is what's the problem with the Black community, is that we want to be more relatable to our children instead of saying, hey, I am your parent, I'm not your friend. I'm not here to be your toy. I'm not your amusement. I'm here to guide you and make you a productive person.
I think it's a whole. It's so many aspects that goes with that. Simply because kids don't go by what you say; they go by what you do. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that this is a new era with relationships. If you look back and you look at relationships with your parents, they probably built great communities, but what was going on the inside is the question. And in this day and age, people are more so focused on feeling more that self-care. So it does take a change. We do. Our generations prior do expect us to change in different aspects. In slavery and a little bit of generations before us, they had to put the emotions to the side. They had to be strong-willed in order to succeed, which I'm saying is not a bad thing. It's not bad to want to succeed, but you can't. This is a time and a place where we can't overlook being human. Mm-hmm. That's most important. I believe the value should be live life and, be who God has placed you here to be, not society. And I think that's the shifting. That's why you have more entrepreneurs now. But because people are, and you had it back then, so it looks like it's going back in that right direction, but it's all on a different focal. Yeah. It's more love entangled, hopefully, because we've had a question before about love and is that existent with today. But shifting it back, I think that mothers and fathers should have that relationship. You look at Kobe with his kids. So there is a love situation that I really don't see in the past that exist. Mm-hmm. Take the S off and it's exit. Why? I don't understand that. But anyway, all I'm saying is that I do see things growing if people allow it to be. If people let love and God stay in that with what's happening today, I think that it will be a better day. Okay. So I think things are looking good.
Okay, so it's funny. So for me, I always say that, in life, as far as our television life, we have 3 different versions of what I consider are the best fathers. And I put them in categories of the wartime father, the peacetime father, and the adjustable father. So James Evans was the war father. And I put him in that category because during the time frame he was growing up in the conditions, he had to be stern. He had to be the moneymaker. He had to be the fear because the children were growing up in a situation where if they made one wrong turn, they would get hurt. Bill Cosby, despite how you feel, Bill Cosby was the peacetime. He was the one where we just came out of war. Now we're in an area where we're prospering, and now we're able to adjust and raise our children with a certain amount of respect and give them a certain amount of things. So I feel like he was the peacetime. Now, Uncle Phil is the adjustable one because he was able to not only provide for his, but he was able to provide for another child and be that father figure. And I think that with those 3 parents, and I say parents because of course they all have wives, they all were able to adjust and throughout the times. Now y'all brought up something about adjusting through time. Do you feel as though we're stuck in the war because we're always at war, and that has affected the family because every time we leave the house, we're battling the perception the world has put on us. We're battling the perception that we put on ourselves. We're battling the perception that our kids have to go through. And every day, we end up in a battle that when we come home, we're battling each other. And I'm going to throw that to you.
It's all the above.
Okay.
And I mean, you think about it, like you said, there's going to be moments where you're going through something, you battling something. Mm-hmm. There's going to be times where you dealt with something, you got over the hump, and things are at a calm. And then there's a time, like you said, you have to adjust. You're able to do more and then some. Okay. And then you like I said, it comes and goes. Not just you stay in one specific mode nowadays. Now it's the way things are going. It's like you're going to always adjust. You're always going to be going to war. And, not always. There's going to be times you're going to war. There's going to be times you're going to be at peace.
Okay. I'll throw it to you, and then you pick up.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a battle, and Oh, Jesus. It is a battle with families simply because of society as well. Kids have peer pressure as well as people go through stuff on the workforce. And it's all about, okay, I'm in my comfort zone with my family. You leave out of these doors, you have your kids that there's bullying going on. It's just so many factors to shift the dynamic of how people feel when they come back home. And sometimes you probably may take it out on the people that you love simply because those are the only ones that you can show your true feelings to. But that's, like I said, it's all love. It's all love. We have to have that arena that didn't exist then, is where we do sit down and listen and communicate and advise kids on how to deal with certain situations and just let them know that the strength is here and that regardless of what society sees you as, you have to first, and we have to do that in our homes, build our kids to love themselves, to understand that I shall not be moved.
Well, it's interesting that you said, like, it's all love, because it's almost like, well, what is love? Because, like, everyone, even I realize within the family, like, there are so many different versions of love. So it's like, of course, again, going back to previous generations, maybe the men being out the home, working hard, barely inside. It's like, oh, because I love my family and I have to provide for them. But then it's like, I talk to so many women and it's like, I never heard my daddy say I love you. So it's like so many people who have they don't even know what real love is because everyone has all these different versions and ideas of love. So yeah, maybe your parent was showing love the way they knew how, or they thought that they were showing that they loved you. But I think that also takes me back to what you were saying before you initially had asked her the question. And you were saying, I guess, like in the past, whatever worked. So why did we try to, change? But it's like, but did it work? Because a lot of us are a little bit jacked up because of the homes that we came out of, because of things that we experienced. And even some of our parents, they endured certain things at the hands of their grandparents. So it's like, did it actually work at the end of the day? And then it's like, but of course, going back to what you said when you were answering, it's like, of course, I feel like now, we're thinking more like self-care and self-love and all of those things, which are amazing. I think it's like we have to find balance. That's the word at the end of the day. We need some of the values that they had from the previous generation. I love that, of course, now we're all about like multiple streams of income and generational wealth and self-care and self-love and looking out for others. There's no balance, I feel like. And I think that's where we're losing many different things as far as like the values and whatever else. You were about to say something.
No.
Oh. I think that was what I was saying. But
oh, you wanted me to say something.
No, I thought you were going to ask something important. But I don't know. So yeah, I feel like not everything was done properly. So I think that there were some things that needed to change. We just have to find a way to like incorporate it all. And the world will be a better place.
I understand. So gloves are off. So now we're actually getting into the meat because y'all want the gloves off. So we're going to take the gloves off.
Okay.
Each one of y'all mentioned love. And you mentioned that at each point there may be times where people show love in a different light. And now we're finding out that the love that they show may not have been conducive to the people that they were raising. Mm-hmm. Why is that held against that person when that's what they knew at the time? If all I know is that I come out of a situation where I didn't have, and I want you to go to college. I want you to get a good job. So I'm going to be hard on you because I know the knuckleheads in the streets are going to bring you down. Why am I being held accountable now 10, 15 years later of you saying that all you want me to do is say I love you, but in reality, me doing everything to provide for you was not only telling you I love you, but it shows you I love you. And I'll start with you, William.
That's messed up.
He likes the point.
What the heck? What's the pointing, man?
I'm sorry. I mean,
he wants to answer the question.
I've been watching talk shows. So.
Okay. You just sit there. Man, you point people out. Okay, no. Restate the question real quick.
No problem. So
the
love was brought up in the understanding of love, and everybody has as a claim a love language. I don't understand.
So, because I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, because affected us in such a way where we certain memories are connected to certain emotions. A lot of times, and like you said, a lot of times you are driven, college. In a sense, the parent was like, "Yeah, I love you enough to tell you that these are things that are important to me." But a lot of times, like you said, it takes a simple, "Hey, I love you." Maybe an explanation would have been a better idea to go about it, but the parent was never taught to say, "Hey," or communicate better. Hey, in a sense, because that's what my parents did one time. At one point, I was like, when I asked them one time, like, why are you, at one point, like, what's the deal with all this? Because here I am, 5-6 years old. You talking about college? I just started school. I'm in kindergarten. What do you think? What is?
Just trying to write my name.
Exactly. I'm just trying to write cursive, but right, left, and right hand, whatever. But yeah, and sometimes it's how it was communicated sticks with you more than what was communicated.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's more what she was saying, or what you were trying to say as well. And like I said, it's how it's handed down from generation to generation. Not what was communicated, how things were communicated amongst the family members.
Okay. You go ahead, Dan.
Well, even with what the question that you posed and asked, why are we holding it against them if that's just the way that they knew? We're not holding it against them. I think at the end of the day, it's just right now, we are definitely in a self-help generation. I feel like there's so much information out there. There's so much talks about, toxic parenting and healing from the past and generational curses, like all of these different things. So I don't even think it's necessarily blaming our parents, because I feel like a lot of them,
it's more or less ingrained.
Yeah, and it's because we have to look at our grandparents. Like a lot of us, I don't even want to use the word toxic, but a lot of us, like we had some pretty, psycho crazy grandparents at the end of the day. And those are the ones who raised our parents. And it's like our parents raised us the best way that they knew how. So I don't think anyone's necessarily holding it against them. And when you look at, of course, some of our great grandparents not even being that far from slavery and whatever else, I think now it's just a matter of we have no excuses as to why we are not dealing with certain things and making certain changes. And now it's like, okay, well, now there's no reason for me to identify and hold myself accountable. Okay, well, I do this because my parents did this. Well, I learned this because da-da-da-da-da. Well, this is the way I felt when my mama did this or my daddy didn't do this. So now that I've identified that, let me actually hold myself, accountable and actually work on it. So I don't know. I don't think it's a matter of blaming the past generations, but a lot of people in this generation, we just don't like accountability. It's easier to blame our parents and grandparents versus saying, let me do the work to actually change the trajectory going forward and letting that be that. Because I would say, like right now with dating and relationships and marriage, if you don't like the family that you came from, that's why it's important for you to choose wisely, because you are literally getting an opportunity to create a do-over. So change whatever it is that you don't like.
Okay, those are good answers, but I'll say this is that we do what we're taught, what we've learned throughout our lives. And do we hold our parents accountable? Do we say it's your fault or whatever, however you love me? No, you learn and you grow. You said your grandmother maybe of crazy. I think after my grandmother is when things shifted. My grandmother was that grandmother that you knew was going to be there, that would wake you up with breakfast at she was that grandmother that sat there, that played cards with you or whatever, did whatever. You saw nothing negative. I never saw anything negative with my grandmother. She was always loving to the community, to everyone. She was just there. She offered you food whenever you came in her house. Now that measure has changed in our society. Everybody is for themselves. You won't see too many people opening their doors for people in the community that are lacking. But what I would say is that, we do need to shift it and do better, but you don't just do better. That comes with experience, that comes with learning, that comes with seeking. But I keep going back to the Bible simply because he said it's the renewing of your mind that changes things. And the only way you can have renewal of your mind is you pay attention to your past experiences and void those things that God have been taken from you. You know, we keep wanting to run back to what's common so that we can feel comfortable, but sometimes you have to be in an uncomfortable situation in order to kind of progress and do things in a better manner.
You got something to say?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna keep the gloves off because y'all want to play. So,
here we go.
Each one of y'all said that there was a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we talk about this shift, and now we're saying we're in a self-help phase of, I guess, family, where we're realizing the trials that we have been through. We're understanding why we're where we're at and things like that. When that shift happened, what you think actually happened during that shift to get us to the point where we're looking at it like, man, our family is really messed up? Because each one of y'all said, for the most part, except for you, that it stopped with grandma. Like, grandma was the last line of defense, and after grandmother, it fell. Right. So what changed? Like, what was the dynamic that changed when you said once grandma passed, or once grandma got to a point where she couldn't do, the community fell behind it? And I'll start with you.
Workforce. Workforce. And like she said, single mom, single parenting. Even though Big Mama was probably single too, but she was home. We have entrepreneurs. We have people that work in more than one job. So the lacking is in it. I'm not blaming this on that movement, but the lack is being home. Kids don't have anyone. I was a latchkey kid. My mother was working, but who's home when the kids come home? Where's that quality time at? And that's what's missing. That's the dynamics. And like I said, kids don't go off of what you tell them, because you can leave them in the morning saying, I love you, but if they don't see you until 9 o'clock at night when they're going to bed, then who's the influencer? And that's social media. That's it. So that's what the shifting is, and it's not a good thing. And that's why we do have to listen to the kids, because it's a different momentum now. They're listening to someone else. They're watching someone else, and that's what's forming that brainwashing in their head. And so when you see the lack of emotion with kids shooting up schools, and that all comes from missing love, real love, that hug. I hug my kids every day because I said I know that it said that a kid that does not have the hug from a loved one can ultimately become your worst enemy. That's all I'll say.
Even when it comes down to the whole shift, I think there are so many different factors you have to consider and so many things you have to identify, because, I mean, even just me and Michelle, we're both talking about two completely different grandmothers. So that already goes to show that already can set the tone. You had a wonderful, loving grandmother, door always open and whatever else. My grandmother...
She said, but...
she loved us, but so her idea of love was getting up at the crack of dawn, and making breakfast and stuff like that. We would get cursed out, we would get hit with a couple of different things, but there was always a hot meal. So it was always, making sure that the home was taken care of. She was all about, y'all not going to stress my husband out. So she was very doting and whatever else in that way. But like the baking cookies together and I love you, like, no, you get cursed out and told, like, get out of her kitchen. And that was just pretty much that. Wow. But even when it still comes, to the shift and everything, you can have an alcoholic father or parent in general. And of course, you can have a child that comes out of that home. You can even have two kids that come out of that home. One is either going to go and become an alcoholic because that's what they saw daddy do. Or one can end up saying, I am never going to drink because of what I saw daddy do. So at the end of this, like, each person is still different at the end of the day and how they're going to respond to different things. And therefore, that is what's also going to determine if that shift even happens or takes place, because you might follow in the same footsteps, or you might decide I'm going to do something completely different because I know that wasn't right.
Now back to your shift with grandmother. I think with the parents, they saw certain ways, when I said earlier, that they felt that was wrong, outdated, and they felt, you know what? How about we try this? That's what my parents did, because both my grandmothers was always in church, always. So, and The only time they really couldn't go to church if they were doing something at school, sports, something along the lines. That other than that, they were in church. Both my parents with their parents. So when I grew, when we were coming up, did I say we had the choice? It was like, well, we'll go to church, when it sees fit to go. Not just only for Easter or Christmas or whatever, but hey, we'll conjure up the time to go to church type deal. To attend. So, so pretty much what you're saying is, I'm at the point now where, like, hey, I go when I go, as opposed to, hey, I gotta be there every Sunday. Right. I gotta be there was it Thursday? Bible study.
Wednesday was Bible study.
Yeah. Wednesday,
Thursday was choir rehearsal.
Right.
Friday was TGI Friday. Saturday was cleaning the church. and Sunday from 9 until 4.
But it goes back to saying that, I think in a sense, it started, like I said, soon parents saw certain things that their parents were showing them. Our grandparents, like, you know what, we tried a different route. And like I said, for some it did work. Some it reverted back to, okay, well, you know what, we'll just, they stuck with the path that was already taken.
I think it also boils down to like self-awareness. Is saying like, okay, who am I and why am I this way? Because like I said, even with what I just described as far as my grandmother is concerned, that made my mom realize, okay, I'm going to raise my kids completely different from the way that my mom raised us. So my grandmother had 5 kids, 3 girls and 2 boys. And, she was harsh, but again, we all, we love her, we miss her. Of course, we knew that that's just who she was. But my mom, again, same thing, 3 girls, 2 boys. She was a softie. We always had hugs. We always had kisses. We always knew how much she loved and cared about us. Now, of course, she single parent, so she worked outside the home, of course, and things like that. And then, of course, now with me, it was looking at, okay, well, this is what I learned from my mom as far as like how to be a mom. Make sure that my kids get hugs and kisses. They know that I love them. They know how I feel. But then, of course, at some point, it was me just kind of saying, okay, but do I like the life that I'm living? And what kind of person am I? And what am I showing my children? Okay, why do I have some of these habits and whatever else? And from there, again, just self-awareness for me at least was saying, okay, so this is why you are the way you are in relationships. This is why you are the way that you are as a woman. And of course, just realizing, okay, some of these things you learned. And again, mama did the best that she could. Daddy did. Yeah. And then just realizing, okay, like you can change, you can shift if you want to. You just have to want to.
So since we're at that intersection and everybody's scared to turn down, so I'll go ahead and turn down the road. And we're going to go down this road. All y'all said something because y'all tiptoeing around it.
We're answering your question.
No, you answered my question, but you tiptoeing around it with your answers. You say all y'all say the same thing, but y'all all scared of saying it.
Just say it then.
I was say just.
I want to hear what we're saying.
What we're really saying is the shift of the dynamic is when the woman left the home. That's what you really
said. That.
No, we're going to talk about it. What the tradition?
We're scared. We've been answering your questions.
We're about to talk. We getting it in. So the traditional roles change, and when it changed, the dynamic of the family changed. So when you're saying, and even though sometimes you may not have the perfect situation like you brought up, the fact that you had somebody home, the fact that you had somebody that you knew that could show you the love, that could be there to do your homework, that if you mess up in school, they was able to go to school because they didn't have the responsibility. Do you think that that's the biggest issue in our community, is the fact that we don't want those values anymore? A woman saw their mother stay home. They're like, I ain't staying home. Why do I want to stay home? No. A man saw his father working 24 hours. I ain't going to work 24 hours. So all of a sudden you want to have kids, but you don't know how to parent anymore because you disregarded the actual values that you was given. So I'll throw it to you. Do you feel like that's the issue because we're running away from what actually was working, which was the foundation of a system that dated back before we touched this continent?
Well, I don't think we're running away from a system. And if you want to say, since you went there.
You're comfortable.
Okay, yeah. Women left the homes, but so did the fathers.
First of all.
Okay, that's why they left.
That's why the woman had to leave the home, first of all.
Okay, so if that dynamic was to come back, which it is, like I said, there are a lot of successful families out there, happy families. But speaking for the ones that have caused this situation, women had to work. What were they going to do? It's not like they didn't stay home because didn't want to stay home because they had the option. Women have to be strong by default. Okay, so we are a provider. Period. It's not like we just say, "Oh, I just want to be all of this. I want to work to the bone," and no, it's what has to happen because people need to step it up. The man has to step it up. The man is the provider. The man is the protector. Now women are. That's all I have to say.
I don't know if Marshawn realized that because you're talking about like let's get to whatever, and it's because the woman left the home, and as she said, like the women had to leave the home and start working outside of it because the men were not there. The men were not inside of the home at the end of the day.
You fell for the trick.
So you don't fail for the trick.
Don't even try. Y'all fell for the trick.
I only had half a cup of espresso. Don't do it, okay? Don't do it this morning. But let's keep in mind, as she said, like we've had no choice but to step up and do certain things. So again, my mom and dad, they were married at one point. They separated when I was 3. I'm the youngest out of 5 kids. So at the end of the day, I saw mama working 2 jobs. I saw her raising 5 kids. She also took in her niece and nephew. When my brother had got his girlfriend pregnant, we were also like helping take care of my nephew as well. So I saw my mom taking care of 8 kids. No, did we have a whole lot? Absolutely not. But of course, there was always food. She took care of us and whatever. So that is what I learned, of course, as I ended up, having my kids. And it was like, oh, okay, though my mom never said, I don't need a man. My mom didn't have men in and out of our house. So, of course, the way that I have always lived over the past decade was like, I don't need a man. I don't need a man because I saw mama take. So, of course, I have this hustle mentality in me. And, of course, now I'm a single parent. And I'm just like, all I know is go, 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 grind, like take care of my kids. And like, maybe you'll get married, maybe you won't, like whatever else the case might be. So we've had no choice, sir. You can smile and y'all feel good.
Go ahead and speak.
You're so sick.
I know you can't wait, my Sean.
I just asked you questions. I
love another question spinning in his head.
I know what's coming.
My next question is.
I love the conversation. I love the conversation. I love having these conversations.
We know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Coleman. Take it away.
Oh man, let's see. Where do we start? Come back to me, yeah.
Okay, no problem. Come back to me. So y'all brought up something very interesting, and one thing I want to say is I understand where you're coming from, and that's why I would never take that away. And that one thing that is a percentage that does happen, and unfortunately that does resonate in our community a lot. So I'm glad y'all went down that road.
And you forced us.
I was at the intersection scared to make the turn. I just went ahead and just turned. So driving down this road, you said something that really, it didn't strike a nerve, but it made me wonder. You said you saw life without a man to the point that you believe that you don't need a man, but you know the order of things is to have a man. Why haven't you reversed that order to find the man that you need to actually put your life in order? But you're not going to answer that.
I'm glad you let me answer that. First of all, anybody now I'm going to get this on because this is what he's looking for right here.
Don't try to get us to fall to the angry black woman. No,
that one already.
Go ahead.
No. Seriously though, first, nobody's looking for a man. I mean, that's not. If you're gonna go right, the man is supposed to find the woman. All right. Okay. And I remember Miss Boaz lady, but I'll let her get to that part.
I'm just already like, over there,
but this is the thing. So, and I don't feel like that. I don't feel like I don't need a man. I would never say that. Right. I would love for the structure to be woman, man, family, period. Okay? But as I mentioned before in our chat, there is a shortage. Okay, so if you're not with, it's not a shortage for women, but it's a shortage for men. And there are good men out there. Okay. A lot of people, I'll say myself, I'm very picky now because I know what I don't want because I already had what I don't want. You know what I mean? And you don't realize what you don't want until you get it. But hold up. But what I want to say is that I'm open to it, but I see red flags every time. And so I've grown so much as a woman that I don't take short changes anymore. Okay, so when that Boaz does pop up, I'm welcoming it. But right now, I won't dare, even if I don't know if that will affect your children, I won't dare bring mediocre people around my kids to just say I have a man. That's all I'll say.
Go ahead.
So like I said, I definitely had the I don't need a man mentality. But of course, what I also did not address was my dad not being in the home. I also had the quote unquote daddy issues. So there still was that little girl inside of me that was dying and desperate for love. So I dated, I was in relationships the whole 9, over the years, but it was still one half of me was like, I don't need a man. But the other half was like, oh, but I just so badly want to be loved. So then what I ended up finding myself was in a whole lot of unhealthy and some toxic relationships. And yes, I still had that I don't need a man mentality, but it was like I still wanted them to I had a lot of abandonment issues as well at the same time. So all of those things became abandonment anxiety even inside of my relationships. And of course, I was realizing, my pattern of the men that I was actually dating. And so finally, I did have to go back to the whole, no, you will never hear me say I don't need a man, because at the end of the day, everyone knows, I'm Christian, I'm Bible, the whole 9. And at the end of the day, it says, it is not good for man to be alone. I am going to make a helper for him. So for me, now I am at that point. I was like, yes, I do need a man. I want a man, going to have a good man. I now know what a good man is. So of course, now it is a matter of me, over the years, I've been dating and forming those, relationships. And again, like she said, I've had enough of the nonsense to know what I'm not going to settle for and what I don't want anymore at this point in my life. I know the standards of what the Bible says as far as a good man, as far as a husband. So yeah, now that's the checklist that I have. And it's if you don't meet that next, out the door, we don't really have time for it. But yeah, so of course, no, I don't. I'm obviously I'm still single now, but I got a good man. I love him. We're going to get married.
Do you want to chime in?
No.
So. Okay. So.
I'll pick up somewhere. I do what? No, let's go.
What? No. What do you have to say?
No. I mean, it's a good point. But the good thing is that you're saying you're not accepting anything or anyone. You have. And that's the issue a lot of times with male or female is when you want to be loved, you want somebody to be in our lives, we just any old body will do. And that's kind of you have certain people that do that. And a lot of times they have a conversation with them and hey, sometimes it's not always good to say you out of relationship A, you already go for relationship B. Take some time to get to know yourself, reevaluate yourself.
But why?
Because like you said, for once, you said that once you got an idea of what kind of person you really are, the kind of person that you want to be down the road, you want to know what you want with you going down that road, down that path. Because what's to say that person you are with is not going to dig that person down the road? And you going down you taking up a time of a person, or you taking up each other's time trying to be something you're not. Or they're thinking that's right. It's not. They're trying to be with you, with what they hear you, what you're telling them that you were like a man. And that's why a lot of times when you I had these conversations in the past, asked, the question was always, well, what do you see? What do you like in a woman? I used to tell them, I said, not of concern right now because I'm trying to get to know you.
Exactly.
Now, if I sit there and I tell them, if I sit and tell you what kind of woman I like,
you're going to become that person. That is definitely true. Right. And I think also, like, even I say this all the time, like with dating, and one thing I have to tell a lot of the ladies that I work with is we need to, with dating, spend more time getting to know somebody as a person before you focus on getting to know them as a partner. Because we go into it with like, okay, well, what do you want in a woman? Where do you see, like, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Like, what is your love language? Like, we go into all of these different things. It's like, just get to know them as a person, and you might realize you don't even want them as a partner. Right. Mm-hmm. So we just go into it a lot of times being so desperate. And the reason I asked you, but why? Because you was just saying, like, you can't get out of one relationship and then go right into another. I think that sometimes you can. Sometimes. And the reason I say that is not all relationships end because it was toxic or unhealthy or, someone got dragged through the mud or whatever. Maybe it was just realizing we're not compatible. Okay, next. So I'm like, people...
So, I'm going to stop. So you can't go from A to B right away. So what circumstances you said, so A is done, B is ready right there. How you know B is that one?
Well, so you don't know that B is that one, but you can say, but okay, well, I'm going to go give B a try. Let's see how this might... And the only reason I say that is because I feel like a lot of times we have so many goals and things that we want. Okay, well, I know that I want to be a doctor. I know that I want to buy a house. I know that I want to... Whatever. We can go from... we know... Okay, so it's like, okay, you know that you need a job to survive. Okay, well, guess what? This job didn't work out. Or this... Guess what? I still know that this is a goal. I need money. You go to the next job. Next.
So you being a dating coach, I'm gonna ask you one more thing. Can you possibly say you're in one job. Let's say you're in one job. Let's say same relationship. Let's say you're in a job, and you're thinking, what, this job is not for me. Is it a bad idea to do other applications?
Now, first of all, no, you're not about to try to blur those two together.
No, it's not.
Because you can be at one job and looking for another job.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
But you cannot be in a relationship.
Right.
But like, okay, this ain't really working out, but before I leave this relationship. I'm not saying
you're not already in another relationship.
Because I don't know, you're trying to just like metaphorically and tie some things, because don't twist my words. I'm just saying.
I'm just asking a question. Look at why you tripping, man. Come on,
this is not an entanglement.
No entanglement here.
This is an entanglement. No, but I just feel as if sometimes there's nothing wrong with going. And again, we say relationship, but it's like anything is a relationship. Right. It does not mean like a deep committed relationship. Right. Like you and I, we have a relationship. Does not mean we're in love and we're whatever. So we all have some type of relationship. You can go from one datingship, situationship, like, okay, well, this one didn't work out. Okay, well, I'm still ready to date. I still want to meet someone. I know I still want to get married one day. This guy was not who I wanted. Okay, next.
Okay.
Now I'm going to go out with Charlie on Friday. Like,
would you like to chime in real quick?
What's the question? Because it's all over the place now.
So right now they're discussing how to maneuver in dating.
You're just on that part. Well,
that's what they were talking about.
I'll say this. I've noticed that a lot of people do it. A lot of people and see, I'm not going to point out who, but yeah,
it's so hard to not drop names.
Exactly, people do. Kind of, because that's a lot of people leave. I looked up the thing. What are the reasons for divorce? It's infidelity. It's domestic violence, and I forget it's one other one.
Divorce, money, and infidelity.
Exactly. Now, in relationships, what could it be? It's not going to be the money simply because they don't have that responsibility. They're not in a full-fledged relationship. So it's infidelity. So what I'm saying is people cheat. So taking applications, a lot of people cheat while they're in relationships and decide to build on to that other person. A lot of times if they break up, they're ultimately with the person they were cheating with. And I mean, and I don't know if cheating is just makes a person feel like they're worthy of someone. I don't know if it makes them feel good. If we can dissect why people cheat, then maybe things will change, because it also goes to maybe scared to be committed fully, or maybe it's a self-worth that you have to develop within yourself to realize, and then it goes to monogamy. But anyway, that's my answer to that.
Let's take a shift.
Yes. Yes.
She in the black community.
I'm just talking.
Yeah.
When you look at
cheating, and that also goes in the church. And why we talk about why people have shifted from the church is simply because as our generation has grown, we've witnessed a lot of dysfunction in that manner as well.
So, I could say this.
Because there's a lot I want to say.
And if I say this, I want y'all to understand the logic behind it. And the reason why is because it was actually broken down to me. The only time there is cheating is in a union of marriage. That is fact. That is biblical. Stop using those terms in normal relationships. No, that's fact. That's biblical because God doesn't recognize anything outside of marriage. That's law.
Oh, okay.
Now you want to add personal stuff to it. That's cool. If you want to add your personal values, that's cool, and if that's what you want to use. But if you want to stand on law, which is the Bible, God says anything done outside of marriage is a sin. Why would I even give you the possibility of trying to justify sin when you are in a sinful nature? When I told you marriage is the only thing you're supposed to touch.
My Sean was coming out. I didn't know we were going to church today.
I had a deacon who sat me down, and he said, anything outside of marriage is a sin. That's fact. He said, so you could run around.
You're talking about sex specifically.
Sex, yeah.
I said, let's call that.
Okay, because if you really get biblical, sex is marriage.
So, so everybody you have sex with, you married?
Pretty much. I mean, something went into something, and that's what it says in the Bible.
Okay, that's why we're going down this road. So, once again, no. Because y'all said that you have to detoxify before you hop into another relationship. Well, maybe we need to stop hopping into relationships with our legs.
There you go.
Of course, absolutely. But first of all, let's keep in mind that not everyone in a relationship is having sex.
I'm not saying that, but here's the caveat, and I want to throw this caveat. But those rules don't come into place until you feel like you've been used. When you in your prime and when you excited, even y'all said it yourself, when you could pick and choose, all of a sudden you could, I could do what I want. Now 10,000 rules are in place. And it's not just y'all, it's men too. Now 10,000 rules are in place. Too late now. You done become a new car to a used car. Yeah. But you're trying to have new car values. Okay. And that's not fair.
Yes, it is.
There are different forms of cheating, first of all. I'm just saying, keeping that. So I see what you're saying as far as like, unless you're married, you can't get. I just feel like sometimes, outside of sex, I feel like sometimes in general, like boyfriend, girlfriend, which I'm I'm too old to be using those terms anyway, but I feel like sometimes the stage before the actual marriage a lot of times gets invalidated. And I feel like sometimes it just does not get taken as seriously. So I know a lot of people, say the whole single until married. Yeah, well, of course, legally we know that is absolutely the case. And again, yes, as Christians, like you, according to the Bible, should not be, of course, engaging in sexual intercourse anyway. But there are still so many different forms and types of relationships, and there's so many different types of cheating as well. So, and that's why I was saying, like, the whole, like, you can't cheat on someone unless you're actually married. Again, there's different types of cheating, so technically, yes, you can.
So I'm glad you brought up some, and I'm gonna throw it to you because this is where I want us to.
Let me get this bat ready. Okay,
this is what
I'm going to knock it out the park.
Do you feel as though because we have adopted in our community, and I always speak about our community, do you feel as though we adopted in our community New Age values, which is we could live together, we could have sex together, we could have threesomes together. I'm going there.
God. That's New Age values.
Well, I'm gonna use the term New Age values. We can have multiple. We can have multiple partners. That by the time that we have adopted all these things to the point that now we don't even look at marriage because we're doing everything else that clouds our judgment to find the one. Because if I'm really looking at it realistically, and I'll take it from a man's standpoint, if I'm doing all these things with multiple women to the point, why would I want to settle down with one? And vice versa, why would a woman want to settle down when she could do multiple things? If a woman could get 5 different checks from 5 different men, why would she settle down for one to receive one?
Oh.
So have we in our community have we got to a point where we just said marriage doesn't count because it doesn't bring a value to the table because I'm getting everything now that I think is of value.
I'll take it back to social media, okay, and the way of the world right now. Had we not had social media and all of these outlets to catch someone doing whatever they're doing, then it would probably be more people married. It would probably be less divorce. It would probably be happy families, happily not knowing that the person that they are in love with has another family down the way. Okay, so what I'm going to say is that all that's happening has happened in the past. It's just not been available as much. And so all of that shifting has not changed when it came to single people having sex as opposed to now. It's probably a little bit more and different type of people having sex. But the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Right. It's just being exposed on 2xposu.com.
The plug.
It's just being exposed, and that's all it is. It's just a magnifying glass on relationships and people's behaviors now, and that's why we have to address it. That's it.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point, because you and we talked about this once on the show, and I was saying the whole social media aspect is true, because I recall I was involved with a guy several years ago, never in a committed relationship, none of that crap, because I knew the kind of man that he ultimately was. We're not even going to go into why I still was kind of involved with him. And I had told him straight up, like, I know that I would never commit myself to you because you're a womanizer. I was like, at the end of the day, like, you always have a whole lot of women. Like, that's something you've always done. Like, you have your main and then your side and whatever else. So you don't even know anything as far as monogamy is concerned. And what he had actually explained was that from the time that he was, like, young boy, his daddy, his older brothers, and his uncles were all pretty much telling him, this is the way it works. Like, always have your main and have as many sides as you want. Just make sure that they never find out about each other. Make sure they never disrespect the main. Make sure they never know where you live. Make sure like this, that, and the third. So he knew to have like different phones and different numbers and all this other different stuff. So as you said, yeah, a lot of this stuff has been going on. It's just now social media, and it's like now, I mean, you can just easily go and just do a Google search of somebody's name, like image, like all kind of different stuff to find this stuff out. What?
Nothing. Keep going.
He's like, you're telling on yourself.
No, I'm just enjoying. This is public. Like everyone knows this stuff, right?
I really didn't. But go ahead.
So I'm just like now social, and not even just social media, but just technology in general,
right?
Because like even with me doing dating coaching, and I'm online dating consultant, and I actually run dating profiles for some of my clients. So doing it from like for some of my female clients, it's interesting when I'm actually like putting my time in and scrolling some of the dating apps. I'm like, ooh, her husband is on this app. And it's like seeing so many different things, and it's just like, but okay, I can't go and take that to this person. I'm just going to stay out of my little single business. But it's definitely technology as far as why a whole lot of this stuff is now coming up and being exposed. I definitely agree. But as you said, this is nothing new. Yeah. It's been going on.
I just think it's this is being put out there more and seen more. It's become more acceptable as well.
That is true.
And I think
a lot of people think that that's the way it's supposed to be. And this is how relationships are. And everybody's, all men cheat. You just got to find someone who's going to come home and all this other nonsense.
We talk about that because now it's the point that you see it so much, it's just like it becomes, it desensitizes you from it, I think we was talking about, what was it we were discussing that time along the same lines? What was it?
You don't know. He thinks about his next question.
I got 4 questions loaded.
Yeah, he got more questions, but I think it was in the sense of what the Nas X thing, the little Nas X thing.
Yeah, we were talking about the image. No, we're not.
We're not going to that, but
I'll take a nap.
It put out there so much that those that object to because of their values. Oh, well, you know what? I don't raise that kind of house. I don't want that in here. We get the pushback of, well, no, this is what's accepted now. Yeah. Because we see it so much, it has to be accepted. We're going to accept it.
And then whether it's Lil Nas X, whether it's marriage, whether it's sex, whether it's cheating, we have all of these different things. And it's crazy because like even inside the Christian community, you see so many different arguments for each one. And everyone is always trying to use scripture either to support, condone, accept whatever. And it's like, even then, I just feel like as Christians, there's like so much division when it comes to all of these different topics. And I'm not even going to go there.
So,
okay. Good with that?
No. I like what you're saying. Everybody said y'all all came to the same conclusion. That's what I always like, because it don't matter how you know what road you take, you always get to the same conclusion sometimes. So that means you have different ways of moving through the pitfalls of life, which is amazing. And I always say that's always amazing. That's why you always bring the group together. Make things always work, because everybody has a different mindset, and they can always come to the same conclusion. With that being said, do you feel as though the African American family is under attack when you start adding in the fact that you see more of our families being drug out in the public, destroyed, more of our families being told that they shouldn't exist, that you have divisions where you have men on one side saying don't get with women, don't marry women, don't take care of women. You got women on the other side saying don't look at a man, only get a man for his money. Do you feel as though that a seed had been planted in our community? Because if you really look at the landscape of life, the Asian community is family oriented. Italian community is family oriented. The Caucasian community is still family oriented. Jewish family is very oriented. We're the only society as of right now that you can honestly say that we will sit up here and say, no, being monogamous is wrong, or why being a two-parent home, that's wrong, or why have parents in the home, that's wrong, why do this, that's wrong, because y'all said we always get attacked, because every time you turn around there's a person who's going to always contradict, but they only contradict the African American family. And do you believe as though that's one of the biggest pitfalls that we run into, is the fact that our family is so under attack that we come to the conclusion that we might as well not have a family? What do you think about that?
I think we fell for it. We took the bait. And what profited the man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? We believe that chasing that mighty dollar and leaving our families, because we are quote unquote doing this for the family, whereas who's taking care of the family while you're chasing that mighty dollar? So yeah, I think we fell for the bait. Everybody else has that foundation. I always said that Black America does not have the foundation when it comes to families. We are always shifting and trying to make things work. And that goes back to the big mama getting married at 15, doing whatever she felt was right for the kids. I think that we need to realize and address the situation and make better of that situation. We need to love. And like you said, love has many different facets. People love differently because of how they were taught to love. So until we can find that common ground on what love is and how to rebuild communities and families, then it's just downhill from here.
And even if we go with the whole that that the Black family is under attack, then it's like, okay, who's attacking us? Because what I see is a lot of attacks coming within our own community at the end of the day. And I feel like, even of course, me looking at dating and relationships and love and stuff like that, I always say the adversarial relationship skills. I realize that a lot of men, and when we look at each other as the enemy, it's like we need each other. It's like if we can just still, again, getting back to the basic foundations of love, but it's like we're always going against each other, and that's why it's like there's so much, tension and whatever else. And I just feel a lot of the attacks, we're doing it to ourselves. We're doing it within our own community. And, even as you were just talking about like all the different, like races and groups and stuff that, stick together and do things. A lot of the stuff that plagues our community, like, we do have certain things that might be specific or more prevalent in our communities, but we're not going to act like they don't exist in other communities. Right. A lot of them are just better at covering up their stuff than we are. We are all about exposing each other and, again, seeing each other as the enemies, where I realize that other races and other cultures, again, they have a lot of infidelity and stuff going on. They're just a whole lot better covering it.
Because
and
love
if Little Billy has a drug problem, then guess what? Nobody else is going to know about Little Billy. We're going to do whatever to protect Little Billy and whatever else. They will do whatever to keep the money there, protect whoever's doing. Like, We do all of those things. Not the black family.
Yeah.
Or we'll protect the child molester.
You want to add something?
Well, certain black families.
Certain black families,
yeah.
absolutely.
And not to like to sit and see what you're wrong. I don't think they cover it. It's just they maintain, they hold ground regardless of what the situation is. Like you said, they don't sit there and leave each other out there in the middle, out there in the wilderness to all on their own. It's like you said, they keep them in rap, but at the same time they keep them in line either way.
Yeah.
So they said we had this discussion as well all the time, and it's like, for example, I had a conversation with a young lady one time, and she was starting a business. I was like, you know what? I'm interested in the same business. So I was like, look, I have to meet with you one time to show me how you walk me through the steps of how you went about doing it. So see if it's the avenue I want to go. So throughout the conversation, she was a black.
A black.
Yeah.
What is a black?
Terrible.
There's stages of black. Like there's the paper bag black, and then there's
I'm sorry, but I'm sorry.
We're not going into all.
I'll back up on that. But throughout the conversation, instead of her saying, "Well, yeah, we can meet," she started just to blurt out the steps. Like, I did this, and I was like, "Whoa, Grace, phone conversation." I just said I called about something else, but it's cool. We'll talk. She once again went to the conversation. Now back to the whole black thing. She was one of those. Not to say it's wrong, like, I'm about the kings and the queens, and and then it turned into, well, I'm looking for something, but every time I go to my people, it seems like they don't have the stuff together, and this, that, and the other. I went on their website. I went to one, they saw the website, this was right, this was correct, and instead of, I was just listening. I was listening. I'm like, okay, so what are you trying to say? You don't want to. Now, mind you, starting out in the field, you're starting out. I have a little bit of experience in the military side, but on the civilian side, I could probably still help you with my experience. I was trying to, hey, if I give you, look, help me out with this, I can point you in the direction of, and that's where I was going with it. It turned into a whole, I was like, you know what? It turned into a whole other, like, okay, in other words, you're not interested in trying to help somebody else out. You're trying to get your thing off, but okay, we'll end this conversation. We'll keep it moving, and that's what it was with me. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but yeah. But when it comes back, like I said, and I don't feel she, in a sense, it was not exactly an attack, but it's so like, okay, we shield ourselves off from each other, and we feel like, you know what, I'm gonna go get mine. You get it however you feel. You get it, or get it out the mud. A lot of times. And that's, I think that's what
along the whole of supporting black businesses. Is that kind of like the general?
Yeah, I think in a sense it's more or less what it was, supporting each other, helping out one another. Because I mean, there's nothing wrong with being number one, but at the same time, you don't want to be the only one at that time.
Right.
So you brought up something very interesting, and you said something too. And earlier in the conversation, you said something. So, are we at war with each other? Is the black man and the black woman at a point where we're the only time we can get along is when we lay together? Outside of that, we're constantly battling each other. Do you feel as though right now, the way society is, the way that our community is the fact that the only peace time that an African American man and woman can have together is if they're in the sheets? And I'm gonna leave it with you. Then I'm gonna let her have it. Then it's gonna come after you.
I think that is absolutely a huge issue right now in the black community. I believe that, yes, we are, in some ways, we are definitely at war with each other. I feel like in some cases that, yes, that is the only time that the black man and black woman can have some type of peace is when they're in bed together. But obviously, I do not apply that over the entire race. Obviously, we know that there are amazing black men, there are amazing black women. We know that there are some strong black marriages, black love, the whole nine. So, of course, again, I just want to make it clear I'm not generalizing it, but yeah, there's definitely war going on, and it's like even with a lot of the singles, and I'll even say even with a lot of the Christian singles, and it's like some of the things that I hear from women, some of the things that I hear from men, attacking. Oh, it's like the men today, they don't, they play and they do this and da 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 da. And it's like a lot of the, men are saying the same thing when it comes to women. So it's like, again, it's like all of this, we're seeing each other as the enemy, and we're talking so much trash, we're attacking each other and belittling and putting each other down, but it's like at the same time, but still claiming that we want to see unity and that we want to get married and that we still believe in certain things. Even like she said, it's like it still is going to go back to Romans 12 too. At the same time, you can't conform to what the world is going on. You literally have to renew your mind. So you can't sit there and say that you want one thing, but at the same time, you're letting certain stuff come out of your mouth and showing that what you're claiming that you want, you're not ready for. And I am a strong believer, of course, biblically speaking, as far as life and death and the power of your tongue. So it's like we end up living out these self-fulfilling prophecies and things that we are speaking. If you're sitting there saying, well, all men today are blah, 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 well, guess what kind of men you're going to keep on meeting? There's definitely a lot of war, and definitely, we got to do better. But that's another thing.
Wow. That's a lot there. Yeah, no, that's a lot with the question and the answer. You sealed it with that. You nailed it. I believe there is a war going on. There's a level of respect that's missing amongst each other. And I don't know, it seems like as a race, like we are quick to give respect to any other race but our own. Yep. And even in business, like we anticipate investing. You'll quickly invest in a business of people that you don't even know of. And what I'll say about that is even in the South or wherever, people are territorial. But they're not territorial when it comes to foreign businesses that are out there. But if it's a black business, they're quick to say, who are they? When did they move here? And I don't know them. Right. Yeah, but we're the only race, and we question each other, but not any other race. Like I'm from Jersey, and the Jewish community simply just moved in and took over part of the hood. That's just what they did. No questions asked. But let it be another race. Let it be our race that do that. It's going to be reluctancy from our own people. We automatically believe that it's no good attached to it. And that's something that we need to stop. We need to stop doing to each other what we hate other races doing to us.
Why do y'all think that is, that there are like so much struggles when it comes to, because you see a lot of people that say, oh, support black business.
Conditioned that way.
And then some people just don't want. It's like some people, it's like it's all about competition. Like, say, who are you and who you think you and where you come from and whatever else.
We're conditioned that way. Think about it. Like, you think about when you used to go to school and somebody showed with a new pair of shoes, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, so got a new pair of shoes, but the outfit she wear, the way it don't go with it, or oh, I like her hair, but we criticize the hair and the haircut. That type of deal.
But is that a self problem? Is that the person that's judging problem as opposed, because why are you dissecting another person?
But that's
like you said, that's definitely self, because at the end of the day it says love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and then love your neighbor as you love yourself. But a lot of us struggle because we have our own internal issues. Like that's why we can't compliment others and support other people, because we have those issues like internally going on.
Right.
So if you're not at a good place with self-love and whatever else, it's going to be hard for you to pay a genuine compliment, support somebody else and whatever. No, because you struggling, baby. Get it together.
It's okay. And so when you're looking in the mirror getting dressed, you're like, let me make sure these shoes match this outfit, because
now you don't want anyone speaking about you the same way that you judging and speaking about everybody else. Like,
so, okay, but should we conduct business in the same manner as well? Make sure that our stuff is in order, in sense. Okay, so we open whatever business, we make sure that we have the proper documentation.
Yes,
the proper, the proper people working for us, working the business, the proper uniform, the proper appearance, the same attitude, regardless of who comes in the door.
Right.
And then as customers, should we just...
But all businesses are not like that. You go to the bodega, you don't look for someone. Do you ask them with their paperwork?
But what about a black business?
But why expect more from a black business than a business you spend all of your money in?
So would you okay? So would you go to a business? Would you come to my store if I was just outright rude to you every time you come in the store?
No.
I don't believe that, because people go to Starbucks, people go to Waffle House. We've had so many indifferences with different businesses, but our people were still going there, and the target was us. So I don't get it.
My whole thing, even when it comes to supporting black businesses, first, I will say being a small business owner in general, I like supporting small businesses. I'm all for as well supporting black businesses. My mentality, and I'll just it hasn't always been, support them just because they're a black business owner.
Exactly.
But it's I'm going to support, again, based on your attitude and everything, first and foremost. And do you have your stuff together? Do you know what you're doing?
Right.
And I think, and that is the problem. Now, I will say with us, I feel like so much is being pushed in this generation as far as go start a business, do this, don't go working for the white man, or don't go, doing whatever else. And it's we need to have our own money and keep it here. And a lot of people are starting businesses and everyone's been told, take that tax money and go and, get an LLC. First of all, not all businesses have to be an LLC, and everyone is starting businesses, but they don't know anything about running businesses.
Right.
And I think, and that's part of the problem as well in the black community, is because we're being told to do certain things, but we're not being told how to do it properly. And that can be business, marriage, relationships, raising children, a lot of things. We're being told to do things almost to compete, whether it's with other races, within our own race, but we're not told how to handle things properly. We're not told why you need to choose maybe this entity and looking at this and thinking about taxes and profit and pricing and customer service and whatever. Why are you saying that's
only in the black community? It's other races that are doing the same thing. Why do we continue to single ourselves out as saying that we're incompetent and don't know what we're doing? You have other races that are doing the same thing, but they are not being fact checked like black people, and we are hard on ourselves more so than any other race.
Well, because I think that goes back to, we're saying, the issue is within our community, because we're so busy trying to point out what you got going on and what you're doing, and then you even said, well, who she thinks she is starting that business? So it's okay, well, now I'm going to go in to support a black business, but let me go ahead and start off by critiquing, and let me find out, and then it's okay, let me go and write a bad review. See, this is why I don't support black businesses right now, because in the way that so it's we're already going into ready to attack each other. And as you said, no, a lot of they're not doing that. They're not even thinking about, okay, well, do you actually have a tax ID number? And do you?
Right.
So
we only question each other.
Right. You don't give each other a chance before we actually get rolling.
See,
jealousy, self-love, all of that.
And I love that y'all brought that up, because that is a fact that we are harder on ourselves. And if you actually think about that, that's even in dating with our rules. We're harder on ourselves. We expect the black woman or the black male to meet these certain categories, but we'll let another race come in with the lowers and we'll date them all the time. But I ain't going to get there because y'all don't want to go there.
We don't even have enough time for
that. Right. Oh my God.
I think those two low that they're taking most of the conversation.
I said, don't even get me started, because I will go in on that real quick.
What?
But I will, in the closeout, I will throw this to everybody. Understanding where we're at right now as far as how we treat each other, how can we remove that stigma that we have placed on ourselves to distrust each other? And I'll start with you, William. How do we move forward from this, from saying, okay, we know the problem, so one of the biggest problems is we don't trust each other.
You got to condition ourselves better.
Okay.
Condition. It's something that's been passed down that they condition a certain way, so they condition us to be a certain way and so forth. We got to work on it. Definitely.
Absolutely. I think the same thing that I've said repeatedly every time I've even touched on this here recently, because me working with single Christian women in general, but I knew that over the past couple of months that God has been telling me to shift and focus specifically on single black Christian women. And just seeing, of course, there are just different things, as I said before, that plague our community, things that are ingrained inside of us. And I always say that same little tug, it's between black men and black women, we got to call a truce. We got to offer each other understanding, and we have to have a level of grace. It's what's going on right now. Let's call it. I like that. But that's really where it all starts. And that's right now I've just, been focusing specifically on helping single black women when it comes to their mentality and, just things of the past and whatever else, so that we can do better as far as that's concerned.
I think it goes back to us understanding that we are royalty and that we are kings and queens. And once we understand that we all have a value, then we will stop trying to devalue each other.
So my final thoughts on this is the fact that one thing we have to understand is that we're not saying we're taking a broad paintbrush and because there are and I don't like this term, so I won't use the term, there's a rose that grows from the concrete. I think it's opposite. I think it's more positive in the African American community than it is negative, and I do believe that. I think that the problem that we come into is the fact that our negative is highlighted more. Mm-hmm. So we're faced with the negativity of everything more so than other races. I do believe that. So everything that we talked about exists on the opposite side. You do have beautiful marriages. Michelle brought up that I think one of the people that she knows is celebrating the 1-year anniversary and how beautiful their marriage is. A lot of us grew up in two-parent homes. And it's not necessarily saying that two-parent homes are a better home or that, you get a better foundation. It is saying that that is part of the design to raise a child. Right. A two-parent home, it doesn't necessarily mean that both parents have to be in the home. However, that does help out when it comes to raising a child. Mm-hmm. We can't deny these facts. But overall, as African Americans, we know that the plus up of the positivity needs to come into our community, and hopefully with these conversations, we were able to gear people towards the fact of saying, hey, there are great things, there are great black businesses, there are great black marriages, there are great black men, great black women, that the notion that there are no good anything is thrown out the window, and hopefully we were able to debunk that myth. We're also recognizing that the problem that does exist needs to be taken care of, and that's my closing thoughts on it. And I would throw it to Michelle so she could tell you her social media and where you could find her, and then we'll go from her to Victoria and then to William.
Yes, Michelle. You can find me on Facebook, Michelle Show Some Love, and on Instagram, Michelle.showsomelove, and Michelle Agape Unity at gmail.com.
For me, of course, again, Coach V, you can find me on Facebook as well as Instagram at New Thing Life Coaching, and also newthinglifecoaching.com. And it was interesting that we did this when we did, because I actually have an upcoming class on Monday designed specifically for Black women who are wanting to unpack some things from the past in order to move forward and make better choices, because whatever you went through does not have to define you. So again, newthinglifecoaching.com, and you can connect with me there and learn more all about it.
Oh, okay.
That would be you, Mr. Coleman.
Yeah, that's me. You can find me on Facebook, find us on Facebook. The main site, the main Facebook page is the Vintage Sight in Sound. It's been changed, so that's what it is now. What's going on? It's changed. Cool. Yeah, now you know. I changed it like last week. Nobody told me nothing. I just changed it. Now if the world knows. The world knows.
Black people, see? See this?
Yeah. Hey, you got another hour back there? Another hour to go? All right, here we go. All right, let's start off. No. But yeah, William Coleman. I am William Coleman on Facebook, so I can be found on Facebook as well. I'm not on the other pages yet, other social, if ever, I don't know. But we are on the other social media. We're on Anchor. We're on...
What is your name on Anchor?
What is the name on Anchor?
Let the madness begin.
The madness begin on Anchor. On Anchor. Okay, that's us.
It's a podcast platform, people. Not everyone knows that.
Okay, you're right.
Glad you said that.
You're right.
Dude, we got a lovely black queen here to keep us alive.
Because I help black businesses. That's what I do.
That's what I'm talking about. See, look together. All right. We're on... we're on Twitter.
We're on Twitter, Facebook, Anchor, Instagram. You can find us at all media platforms. You can look up William Coleman. You can look up myself, Marshawn Taylor. And we have a lot more commentary coming. Also on 2xposu.com. We're the #1 rated show on 2xposu.com. We're the anchor of the platform, and we do want you to come and visit the other shows. It's a great platform. Please support them.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more. We're on YouTube. It's Sight and Sound as well. Right. So yeah, we're on.
We got to remember that one, huh?
And you can find each one of these wonderful people. They're also on 2xposu.com. We'd like to thank Daryl Ray. We'd like to thank our wonderful guests for joining us. And be black, stay black. And nobody else tells you, we will. We love you.
Peace. Next time.